The shrill ring of my phone pierced the quiet of our bedroom, startling me awake. I fumbled for it in the dark, my heart racing as I saw Evan's name on the screen. He never called this late. "Evan, what's wrong?" I asked, my voice thick with sleep. Silence greeted me, then a muffled sound. Was he crying? "Laura, I can't do this anymore," he finally said, his words slurred. "I've met someone else." The world tilted beneath me. I gripped the phone tighter, willing myself to have misheard. "What are you talking about? Where are you?" "I'm sorry, Laura. I should have told you sooner. I've been seeing her for months." My stomach lurched. "Months? Who is she?" "It doesn't matter. I'm leaving you. I'll be by tomorrow to get my things." The line went dead. I sat there frozen as the reality of what just happened crashed over me in waves. Hours later, I was still sitting on the edge of the bed when sunlight began to filter through the curtains. The chirping of birds outside felt like a cruel joke. How could the world go on as if nothing had changed? A knock at the door jolted me from my daze. I stumbled downstairs, hoping against hope that it was all a bad dream and Evan would be there, ready to apologize for a drunken mistake. Instead, I found Anna on my doorstep, concern etched across her face. "Laura, you look awful. What happened?" I crumpled into her arms, finally letting the tears flow. Between sobs, I managed to choke out, "Evan, he's leaving me. He's been cheating." Anna guided me to the couch, her arm around my shoulders. "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. When did you find out?" "Last night. He called. He was drunk, said he'd be here today to get his things." Anna's eyes flashed with anger. "That coward. He didn't even have the decency to tell you face to face." I shook my head, feeling hollow. "I don't understand. We were trying for a baby. Everything seemed fine." "Men," Anna spat. "They can be real bastards sometimes. You deserve so much better, Laura." A car door slammed outside. My heart leapt to my throat as I saw Evan's SUV in the driveway. "I can't face him," I whispered, panic rising. "Anna, please." She squeezed my hand. "I've got this. You go upstairs. I'll deal with him." I retreated to the bedroom, my sanctuary now tainted by last night's phone call. I could hear muffled voices downstairs, Anna's sharp and angry, Evan's low and defensive. Footsteps on the stairs. My breath caught as the door opened, revealing Evan. He looked terrible, unshaven, bloodshot eyes reeking of alcohol. "Laura," he began, his voice rough. "I'm sorry. I never meant for this to happen." Anger flared within me, burning away the numbness. "Never meant for what to happen, Evan? For me to find out? How long have you been lying to me?" He flinched. "It's complicated. You wouldn't understand." "Try me," I challenged, rising to face him. "Explain how you could do this to us, to our marriage." Evan's face hardened. "There is no us anymore, Laura. I'm in love with someone else. I'm moving out today." The finality in his voice was like a physical blow. I watched in stunned silence as he began throwing clothes into a suitcase. "What about our plans?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "The family we wanted to build?" He paused, not meeting my eyes. "Sometimes things don't work out the way we planned. You'll be better off without me." As he zipped up the suitcase, a wave of desperation washed over me. "Evan, please, we can work this out. We can go to counseling. Take some time." He shook his head. "It's too late for that. I'm sorry, Laura. I really am." With that, he was gone, leaving me alone with the shattered remains of the life we'd built together. I sank to the floor, surrounded by the echoes of broken promises and unanswered questions. Downstairs, I heard the front door close, followed by the roar of Evan's engine fading into the distance. Anna's soft footsteps approached, and I felt her arms wrap around me. "It's going to be okay," she murmured. "You're strong, Laura. You'll get through this." But as I sat there, my world crumbling around me, I wondered how I could possibly pick up the pieces of my shattered heart. The divorce papers lay on the coffee table, a stark reminder of how quickly life can change. I stared at them, my hand shaking as I reached for the pen. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. We were meant to grow old together, raise children, build a life. Now, all those dreams were crumbling before my eyes. A knock at the door startled me. Anna poked her head in, her eyes full of concern. "How are you holding up, sweetie?" I tried to smile, but it felt more like a grimace. "I'm fine, just processing." She sat beside me, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. "You don't have to be strong all the time, Laura. It's okay to fall apart sometimes." The dam broke. Tears streamed down my face as I leaned into her embrace. "I don't understand, Anna. Was I not enough? Did I do something wrong?" No, honey, this is all on Evan. He's the one who broke his vows, not you. As if summoned by his name, my phone buzzed with a text from Evan. We need to talk. Can I come over? I showed Anna the message, my stomach churning. She frowned. You don't owe him anything, Laura, but if you want to hear him out, I'll stay with you. Taking a deep breath, I typed a reply. Fine. Be here in an hour. The next 60 minutes crawled by. I paced the living room, rehearsing what I'd say, trying to steel myself against whatever excuses or manipulations Evan might throw my way. When the doorbell rang, my heart leapt into my throat. Anna squeezed my hand before I went to answer it. Evan stood on the porch, looking more put together than the last time I'd seen him. The familiar scent of his cologne hit me, bringing a rush of memories I quickly pushed aside. Laura, he said, his voice soft, thank you for seeing me. I stepped back, letting him in, but maintaining my distance. What do you want, Evan? He glanced at Anna, then back to me. Can we talk privately? Anything you have to say, you can say in front of Anna, I replied, crossing my arms. Evan sighed. Fine. Look, I've been doing a lot of thinking. I made a terrible mistake. I want to come home to work things out. The words I'd longed to hear just days ago now rang hollow. And what about her, the woman you've been seeing? He had the decency to look ashamed. It's over. It was never serious. You're the one I want to be with, Laura. We can start over, maybe even try for that baby we always wanted. I felt the room spin. How dare he dangle our dream in front of me like this? Anna must have sensed my distress because she stepped forward, her voice sharp. That's low, Evan. You can't just waltz back in here and expect everything to be forgiven. Evan's face hardened. This doesn't concern you, Anna. It's between me and my wife. Ex-wife, I corrected, finding my voice. You made your choice, Evan. You don't get to change your mind now that your affair didn't work out. He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. Please, Laura, I love you. We can get past this. For a moment, I wavered. The thought of reconciliation, of salvaging our marriage was tempting. But then I remembered the pain, the betrayal, the sleepless nights wondering what I'd done wrong. No, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. We can't. I deserve better than this, Evan. Better than you. His face clouded with anger. You'll regret this, Laura. You're not getting any younger. Who else would want you? Anna stepped between us. That's enough. Get out, Evan. Now. As the door slammed behind him, I collapsed onto the couch, my body shaking with sobs. Anna held me, murmuring words of comfort. You did the right thing, Laura. I'm so proud of you. Through my tears, I nodded. It hurt. God, did it hurt, but for the first time since Evan's betrayal, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I could rebuild my life without him. As night fell, I sat alone by the window, watching the stars emerge. The divorce papers still lay unsigned on the table, but I knew what I had to do. Tomorrow, I'd take the first step towards my new future, whatever that might hold. The doorbell rang, its cheerful chime a stark contrast to the dread pooling in my stomach. I knew who it was before I even opened the door. Claudia, my soon-to-be ex-mother-in-law, stood on the porch, her lips pressed into a thin line. Laura, she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. We need to talk. I hesitated, then stepped aside to let her in. As she brushed past me, the scent of her expensive perfume filled the air, bringing back memories of tense family dinners and veiled criticisms. Claudia settled herself on the couch, eyeing the living room with barely concealed disdain. I hear you're going through with this ridiculous divorce. It's not ridiculous, Claudia, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. Evan made his choice. She waved her hand dismissively. Men stray, Laura. It's what they do. A good wife learns to look the other way. I felt my cheeks flush with anger. I deserve better than that. I deserve faithfulness and respect. Claudia's eyes narrowed. What you deserve is irrelevant. What matters is family. And you, my dear, have failed spectacularly at that. Her words hit me like a physical blow. I knew what was coming next, but it didn't make it any easier to hear. How long have you and Evan been trying for a baby? She continued, her voice sharp. 5 years, and not so much as a false positive. It's no wonder he looked elsewhere. Tears pricked at my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. That's not fair. We both wanted children. It wasn't just my... Oh, please, Claudia interrupted. We both know Evan is perfectly capable. The problem lies with you. I took a deep breath, trying to center myself. Infertility is complex, Claudia. It's not always about blame. She stood pacing the room like a caged tiger. Blame? Who's talking about blame? I'm talking about responsibility. Your responsibility to this family, to give Evan the children he deserves. The children he deserves, I repeated, incredulous. What about what I deserve? A faithful husband, a supportive family? Claudia whirled on me, her eyes flashing. You ungrateful little... She caught herself, smoothing her expression into one of concern. Laura, dear, I'm only thinking of your best interests. You're not getting any younger. Who else would want you? The echo of Evan's words from the other day sent a chill down my spine. I don't need anyone to want me, Claudia. I want myself. I choose myself. She laughed, a cold, brittle sound. Don't be naive. You'll die alone, surrounded by cats, while Evan moves on and has the family he's always wanted. Something inside me snapped. Years of pent-up frustration and hurt came pouring out. Get out, I said, my voice low and dangerous. Get out of my house right now. Claudia blinked, taken aback by my sudden ferocity. Now, Laura. No, I cut her off. I'm done listening to you. I'm done letting you make me feel small and inadequate. Evan's affair is not my fault. Our fertility struggles are not my fault. The only thing I'm guilty of is staying in this toxic situation for far too long. I strode to the front door, throwing it open. Leave, Claudia, and don't come back. For a moment, she stood there, shock written across her face. Then her features hardened. You'll regret this, Laura. When you're all alone, with nothing and no one, you'll wish you'd listened to me. As she stormed out, I slammed the door behind her, my whole body shaking. I leaned against it, sliding down to the floor as sobs racked my body. Minutes or hours later, I couldn't tell. I heard a key in the lock. Anna's worried face appeared as the door opened. Laura, oh honey? She knelt beside me, pulling me into a hug. What happened? Through hiccuping sobs, I recounted Claudia's visit. Anna's face grew stormy as I spoke. That witch, she muttered. Laura, look at me. She tilted my chin up, her eyes fierce. You are strong, you are worthy, and you are not alone. We're going to get through this together, okay? I nodded, clinging to her words like a lifeline. As the sun set outside, casting long shadows across the living room, I made a silent vow to myself. No more letting others define my worth. It was time to reclaim my life on my own terms. The law office of Jameson and Associates loomed before me, its glass facade reflecting the morning sun. I took a deep breath, smoothing my blouse and straightening my shoulders. This was it, the first step towards reclaiming my life. Anna squeezed my hand. You've got this, Laura. I'll be right here when you're done. I nodded, grateful for her unwavering support. As I pushed through the revolving doors, I felt a strange mix of terror and exhilaration. For the first time in years, I was taking control of my destiny. Laura Thompson? A smartly dressed woman approached me. I'm Melissa Jameson. Please, come this way. She led me to a sleek conference room, gesturing for me to take a seat. Before we begin, I want you to know that everything you say here is confidential. I'm here to protect your interests, Laura. I nodded, my mouth suddenly dry. Thank you. I'm not sure where to start. Melissa's eyes softened. Why don't you tell me about your marriage? When did things start to go wrong? For the next hour, I poured out my heart. The years of trying for a baby, the growing distance between Evan and me, the devastating revelation of his affair. Melissa listened intently, taking notes and occasionally asking for clarification. Laura, she said finally, her tone serious. Based on what you've told me, I believe we have a strong case for divorce. However, there's something else we need to discuss. My heart raced. What is it? She slid a folder across the table. Our investigators have uncovered some concerning financial activity in your joint accounts. With trembling hands, I opened the folder. Page after page of bank statements, transfers to unknown accounts, large withdrawals. My head spun as I tried to make sense of it all. What does this mean? I whispered. Melissa leaned forward. It appears that Evan has been systematically moving money out of your shared accounts for months, possibly years. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the table, fighting waves of nausea. How much? We're still calculating the total, but it's substantial. Hundreds of thousands, at least. A hysterical laugh bubbled up in my throat. But that's impossible. We don't have that kind of money. Melissa's expression was grim. I'm afraid you did, Laura. The question now is, where did it go? As the implications sank in, a cold fury replaced my shock. All those years of scrimping and saving, putting off vacations, delaying home repairs, while Evan was secretly siphoning away our future. "What do we do now?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "We fight," Melissa said firmly. "We'll file for divorce immediately and petition for a full financial disclosure. If Evan has hidden assets, we'll find them." I nodded, a strange calm settling over me. "Do it. I want everything he took from me." As I left the office, my mind reeled with everything I'd learned. Anna took one look at my face and pulled me into a fierce hug. "What happened in there?" she asked. I pulled back, meeting her concerned gaze. "Evan's been stealing from me, Anna, for years. Everything we worked for, it's gone." Her eyes widened in shock, then narrowed with anger. "That bastard. Laura, I'm so sorry." I shook my head, a newfound determination coursing through me. "Don't be. This changes everything. I'm not just fighting for my freedom anymore. I'm fighting for justice." As we walked to the car, I felt a shift inside me. The Laura who had walked into that office, scared, uncertain, was gone. In her place stood a woman ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. "Anna," I said, pausing by the car door, "I need a favor." "Anything," she replied without hesitation. I met her gaze, my voice steady. "I need you to help me pack up the house. I'm not spending another night under the same roof as Evan's lies." Anna's face broke into a fierce grin. "Now that's the Laura I know. Let's go show that cheating thief what you're made of." As we drove away from the law office, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The road ahead would be hard, but for the first time in months I felt hope. This wasn't the end of my story. It was just the beginning. The courthouse loomed before me, its stone facade a silent witness to countless battles fought within its walls. Today it would bear witness to mine. I clutched my folder of documents, each page a testament to Evan's betrayal and deceit. Anna squeezed my arm. "You ready for this?" I nodded, steeling myself. "As ready as I'll ever be." We climbed the steps, the click of my heels echoing in the cavernous entrance hall. Melissa, my lawyer, met us at the courtroom door, her face a mask of professional calm. "Laura, remember what we discussed. Stay composed, no matter what Evan or his lawyer might say." I took a deep breath, nodding. As we entered the courtroom, I saw Evan for the first time in months. He sat beside his lawyer, looking polished and confident. Our eyes met, and for a moment I saw a flicker of something. Regret? Anger? Before his face hardened into a neutral mask, the judge entered, and we all rose. As the proceedings began, I felt a surreal detachment, as if I were watching someone else's life unravel on a movie screen. Evan's lawyer painted a picture of a troubled marriage, insinuating that my obsession with having a child had driven Evan away. I gripped the edge of the table, willing myself to stay calm as he twisted our years of struggle into a weapon against me. When it was Melissa's turn, she methodically dismantled their arguments, presenting evidence of Evan's infidelity and financial misconduct. I watched Evan's face as bank statements and text messages were entered into evidence, his cool facade cracking under the weight of his exposed lies. "Your Honor," Melissa said, her voice steady, "my client has suffered not only the emotional trauma of her husband's infidelity, but also significant financial harm. We are requesting full disclosure of all assets and a fair division of marital property." Evan's lawyer jumped up. "Objection, Your Honor. My client denies any financial wrongdoing. Mrs. Thompson's claims are baseless and vindictive." The judge peered over his glasses. "Overruled. Mr. Thompson, given the evidence presented, the court orders a full financial audit. You have 30 days to provide a complete accounting of all assets and transactions for the past 5 years. I exhaled slowly, relief washing over me, but my moment of triumph was short-lived. "Your Honor," Evan's lawyer interjected, "in light of these unfounded accusations, my client is amending his petition. We're seeking full ownership of the marital home and a larger share of joint assets to compensate for the damage to Mr. Thompson's reputation." The room spun. Our home, the one we'd lovingly restored together, where I'd imagined raising our children, now another battleground in this war. As the judge called a recess, Evan approached me, his voice low. "Laura, don't do this. We can still work things out. Remember all we've been through together." I met his gaze, searching for any trace of the man I'd once loved. "You're right, Evan. I do remember everything we've been through. That's why I know this is the only way forward." His face darkened. You'll regret this. When you're alone, with nothing, you'll wish you'd listened to reason." As he walked away, I felt a strange sense of calm settle over me. For the first time, I saw Evan clearly, not as the man I'd loved, but as the manipulator he'd become. Outside the courtroom, Anna and Melissa huddled around me. "Laura, are you okay?" Anna asked, her eyes full of concern. I straightened my shoulders, a new resolve burning within me. "I'm more than okay. I'm ready to fight." Melissa nodded approvingly. "That's what I like to hear. But Laura, you should know. This is going to get uglier before it gets better. Are you prepared for that?" I thought of our home, filled with memories both bitter and sweet. I thought of the years spent trying to build a family, only to have it all crumble beneath me. And I thought of the future. Uncertain, yes, but full of possibilities I'd never dared to imagine before. "I'm prepared," I said, my voice steady. "Whatever it takes, I'm going to reclaim my life. Evan took enough from me. He doesn't get to take my future, too." As we left the courthouse, the sun breaking through the clouds felt like a sign. The road ahead would be hard, but for the first time in years, I felt truly free. The divorce wasn't an end. It was a beginning. My beginning. 2 years after the divorce, I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my dress. The woman staring back at me was almost unrecognizable, confident, radiant, and genuinely happy. I touched the delicate pendant Randy had given me on our 6-month anniversary, a symbol of our new beginning. "You look beautiful, Mom," came a voice from the doorway. I turned to see Lily, Randy's 12-year-old daughter, smiling at me. My heart swelled with love for this child who had accepted me so readily into her life. "Thank you, sweetheart," I replied, reaching out to squeeze her hand. "Are you ready for the party?" She nodded enthusiastically. "Dad's already downstairs, greeting the first guests." As we descended the stairs, the sound of laughter and conversation filled the air. Our home, a cozy townhouse we'd bought together, was full of friends and family, gathered to celebrate our first wedding anniversary. Randy's face lit up as he saw us. He crossed the room, planting a kiss on my cheek. "There's my beautiful wife," he murmured. For a moment, I was overwhelmed by the sheer joy of it all. After the pain and betrayal of my past, I'd found love again, a love built on trust, respect, and genuine partnership. The evening flowed with warmth and laughter. As I moved among our guests, I caught snippets of conversation, friends remarking on how happy Randy and I looked, how well Lily was doing in school, plans for summer vacations and future get-togethers. It was during a lull in the party that I felt it, a sudden wave of nausea that had me gripping the kitchen counter for support. Anna, ever observant, was at my side in an instant. "Laura, are you okay?" she asked, concern etched on her face. I nodded, taking deep breaths. "I'm fine. Just a little dizzy. It's probably the champagne." But as the night wore on, the feeling persisted. By the time the last guest had left and we'd finished cleaning up, exhaustion hit me like a tidal wave. Randy noticed immediately. "Honey, you look pale. Why don't you go lie down? I'll finish up here." I didn't argue, collapsing onto our bed fully clothed. As I drifted off to sleep, a nagging thought tugged at the edges of my consciousness, but I was too tired to grasp it. The next morning, I woke to find Randy already up, Lily's laughter drifting up from the kitchen. As I sat up, that same wave of nausea hit me. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. With trembling hands, I counted back the days since my last period. How had I not noticed? We'd been so careful, knowing the heartbreak I'd experienced before. I crept to the bathroom, thankful for the pregnancy test I'd kept hidden away, a remnant of my past life with Evan. The 3 minutes it took for the results felt like an eternity. When I finally looked down at the stick, my world tilted on its axis. 2 pink lines stared back at me, unmistakable and life-changing. Pregnant. After years of trying, of heartbreak and loss with Evan, here I was, expecting a child with Randy. Joy and terror warred within me. What if something went wrong? What if I couldn't carry to term? And how would Lily feel about a new sibling? I sank to the bathroom floor, overwhelmed by the magnitude of this moment. Memories of my past struggles flooded back. The disappointment each month, the failed treatments, the way Evan had eventually blamed me for our inability to conceive. But this was different. I was different. Randy was different. A soft knock on the door startled me. "Laura?" Randy's voice was tinged with worry. "Are you okay in there?" I looked at the test in my hand, then at my reflection in the mirror. The woman looking back at me had weathered storms and come out stronger. She had found love again, built a new family, and now stood on the precipice of a dream she'd thought lost forever. Taking a deep breath, I opened the door. Randy's concerned face came into view, and I felt a surge of love so strong it nearly knocked me off my feet. "Randy," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, "I have something to tell you." The doctor's office was eerily quiet as Randy and I sat hand in hand, waiting for the results of my latest ultrasound. At 20 weeks pregnant, every appointment felt like walking a tightrope between hope and fear. "Laura Thompson?" a nurse called, and we both stood, hearts racing. Dr. Patel greeted us with a warm smile, but I could sense an undercurrent of tension. "Laura, Randy, please have a seat." I gripped Randy's hand tighter as Dr. Patel pulled up the ultrasound images on her computer screen. "As you can see," she began, pointing to a grainy black and white image, "the baby's development is progressing well in most areas. However, I'm concerned about the size of the fetus. It's measuring smaller than we'd expect at this stage." The world seemed to tilt beneath me. "What does that mean?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Patel's expression softened. "It could be nothing to worry about. Some babies are simply smaller. But given your history of fertility issues, I'd like to run some additional tests to rule out any complications." Randy squeezed my hand. "What kind of tests?" "An amniocentesis would give us the most comprehensive information," Dr. Patel explained. "But I want to be clear. There are risks involved." As she detailed the procedure and its potential complications, I felt as if I were underwater, her words muffled and distant. All I could think about was the tiny life growing inside me, the miracle I'd waited so long for, now potentially at risk. "Laura," Randy's voice broke through my haze. "What do you think?" I looked from him to Dr. Patel, then down at my slightly rounded belly. I need to think about it." The drive home was silent, both of us lost in our own thoughts. As we pulled into the driveway, I saw Lily peering out the window, waving excitedly. The sight of her brought fresh tears to my eyes. Inside, our babysitter quickly picked up on the tension. "Is everything okay?" she asked as she gathered her things. Randy forced a smile. "Just a long day. Thanks for watching, Lily." As soon as the door closed behind her, Lily bounded up to us. "How's the baby? Did you get new pictures?" I felt my throat constrict. "The baby's fine, sweetheart. Why don't you go start your homework? We'll talk more at dinner." Once Lily was upstairs, I collapsed onto the couch, the weight of the day finally crashing down on me. Randy sat beside me, pulling me close. "Talk to me, Laura," he murmured. "What are you thinking?" I took a shuddering breath. "I'm terrified, Randy. What if something's wrong? What if I lose this baby too?" He held me tighter. "We don't know that anything's wrong, and whatever happens, we'll face it together." But as the days passed, the fear grew. Every twinge, every moment I didn't feel the baby move sent me into a spiral of panic. I found myself withdrawing, spending hours researching every possible complication, torturing myself with worst-case scenarios. A week after the appointment, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the amniocentesis consent forms. The risks swam before my eyes: miscarriage, infection, preterm labor. How could I make this decision? The sound of the front door opening startled me. Lily burst in, followed by Randy. "Mom, Dad says we can order pizza tonight. Can we get extra cheese?" Lily's excitement was palpable. I tried to smile, but it felt more like a grimace. "Sure, sweetie, whatever you want." Randy's brow furrowed as he took in the scene, the scattered papers, my red-rimmed eyes. "Lily, why don't you go decide on a movie for us to watch later?" Once she was out of earshot, Randy knelt beside me. "Laura, this can't go on. You're making yourself sick with worry." I couldn't meet his eyes. "I can't help it. Every time I close my eyes, I see all the ways this could go wrong. I don't know if I can survive losing another baby." Randy cupped my face in his hands, forcing me to look at him. "Listen to me. You are the strongest person I know. Whatever happens, we will get through it. But you have to let me in. Let me help you carry this burden." As I looked into his eyes, so full of love and concern, something inside me broke. The walls I'd been building crumbled, and I collapsed into his arms, sobbing. "I'm so scared," I whispered. "I know," he murmured, stroking my hair. "I am too, but we're in this together. You, me, Lily, and this baby. We're a family." In that moment, surrounded by Randy's love and the sounds of Lily humming upstairs, I made my decision. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I would face them head on. For my family, all of them. The hospital waiting room buzzed with nervous energy as I sat, one hand on my swollen belly, the other clutching Randy's. At 36 weeks pregnant, we were here for what should have been a routine checkup, but nothing about this pregnancy had been routine. Laura Thompson? A nurse called, and we stood following her to the examination room. Dr. Patel entered, her face serious. Laura, Randy, I'm afraid we've detected some irregularities in the baby's heartbeat. We need to perform an emergency C-section. The world tilted beneath me. But it's too early, I whispered, panic rising. We don't have a choice, Dr. Patel said gently. The baby is in distress. Everything after that was a blur of activity. As they prepped me for surgery, I clung to Randy's hand, terror and hope warring within me. Just before they wheeled me into the operating room, a commotion erupted in the hallway. To my shock, I saw Claudia pushing past nurses. Evan close behind. Laura, Claudia cried, her face a mask of concern I'd never seen before. We just heard. You can't do this. Evan stepped forward, his eyes pleading. Laura, please, come home with us. We can take care of you and the baby. This is meant to be our second chance. For a moment, I was transported back to our old life, the years of trying, the heartbreak, the blame. But then I felt Randy's steady presence beside me, heard Lily's voice in my head calling me Mom. I took a deep breath, finding strength I didn't know I possessed. Claudia, Evan, I appreciate your concern, but this is my family now. My home, my life. Claudia's face hardened. You ungrateful girl, after everything we've done for you. That's enough, Randy interrupted, his voice firm. Laura needs to get to surgery. Please leave. As security escorted them out, I saw a flicker of something, regret, acceptance, cross Evan's face. But I had no time to dwell on it as they wheeled me away. The operating room was a flurry of activity. Through my fear, I focused on Randy's voice, steady and reassuring. You've got this, Laura. You're the strongest person I know. And then suddenly, a cry pierced the air. Strong, defiant, alive. Our baby. It's a girl, Dr. Patel announced, her voice thick with emotion. She's small, but she's fighting. Tears streamed down my face as they placed her on my chest, this tiny, perfect being we'd fought so hard for. As I looked into her eyes, I saw not just our future, but my past. Every struggle, every heartbreak that had led me to this moment. In the recovery room, surrounded by Randy, Lily, and our new daughter, I felt a sense of peace I'd never known before. Anna burst in, her face glowing with joy as she took in the scene. Oh, Laura, she breathed. She's beautiful. What's her name? Randy and I exchanged a look. We'd discussed names, but nothing had felt right until this moment. Hope, I said softly. Her name is Hope. As if recognizing her name, Hope opened her eyes, her tiny hand wrapping around my finger. In that gesture, I felt the weight of my journey. The pain of betrayal, the struggle to rebuild, the fear and joy of this pregnancy. But I also felt the strength I'd gained, the love I'd found, the family I'd built. A knock at the door drew our attention. To my surprise, I saw Claudia standing there alone this time. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her usual poise gone. May I come in? She asked hesitantly. I looked at Randy, who nodded slightly. Of course, I said. Claudia approached the bed, her gaze fixed on Hope. She's perfect, she whispered. Then, to my shock, she looked at me with tears in her eyes. I'm sorry, Laura, for everything. I was wrong about you, about all of this. The room fell silent, the weight of her words hanging in the air. I thought of all the pain, all the cruel words, but as I looked at Hope, at Randy and Lily, I felt the last of my bitterness melt away. Thank you, Claudia, I said softly. Would you like to hold your granddaughter? As Claudia cradled Hope, her face transformed by wonder, I felt the final pieces of my life click into place. This was my family, not defined by blood or past mistakes, but by love, forgiveness, and hope. In that moment, surrounded by the people I loved, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. My journey had been long and painful, but it had led me here, to a love deeper than I'd ever imagined and a strength I never knew I possessed. As Hope's tiny hand wrapped around my finger once more, I smiled. This was just the beginning of our story.